All right, now I can head over here to the chat. Let's see who we have here this morning. Sorry for just getting all my settings correct. I don't know what's going on here. It's crazy. I just feel like the settings change on their own because every time something else is happening, just because I unplug stuff, like yesterday I was using the camera, now I'm not using it today. So then all the audio settings were messed up. But let's see who we have here today. I can get over to the chat now, so. Good morning, Peacock. Good morning, Christy. Good morning, Ed. Good morning, Billy. Good morning, Trader Kyra. Good morning, Tony Montana. Good morning, Kay. Good morning, Flovex. It's Algo. How are you doing today? Good morning, Leonard. Good morning, good morning, good morning, or good day, depending on where you're from. Good morning, Green Reaper. Good morning, Livy. Good morning, Jericho. Good morning, Makio. Good morning, Tatiana. Good morning, Sally. Good morning, Luck. Good morning, Myth. Good morning, Caesar. Iron Jaw, what's up? Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, good morning, good morning, or good day, depending on where you're from. Hopefully everybody's week is going well so far. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, JB. Ahmed, good morning. JD, good morning. Marco, good morning. Brian, good morning. Vote for Bonds, good morning. Tay, good morning. Valis, good morning. Adarsh, good morning. Martin, good morning. Henry, good morning. Gian, how are you doing today? Eve, good morning. Kay, good morning. Tyree, how are you doing today? Mr. Alpha, good morning. Erish, good morning. It's Brooklyn, good morning. Kieran, good morning. Bobby, how are you doing today? Hopefully everybody's day is going well. Hopefully everybody's week is going well. Just taking some time to say good morning to the community, and then we'll get into some information here. Good morning, Game Sky. Jarek, good morning. DJ Rick, maybe I said that wrong. Jackson, good morning. Ivan, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully everybody's day is going well. Hopefully everybody's week is going well. Let's see how chat is doing this morning. Throw a 1 in the chat if you're green on the week. Throw a 2 in the chat if you're red on the week. And throw a 3 in the chat if you've yet to trade this week. Couple 1s, couple 2s, couple 3s. Some more 1s, some more 3s. Pretty mixed bag so far. More 2s. Okay, some red, some green, some flat. Pretty much covering all the bases here this morning. Well, it's the beginning of the week. We have time ahead of us. Let's make sure that we're not over trading, over risking. The first thing that I want to bring up is very clear volatility. Little less this week to start off the week, but I mean, we were seeing some historic, I mean, no exaggeration, actually historic moves last week. So the first thing that I have to say here, first things first, I'm here to document my journey. So you are to accept your own risk. We do not take responsibility for any risk. You are to be accountable of any risk. So you assume your own risk. None of this is financial advice. If you guys feel like watching me document my journey, be my guest. I'll gladly show it to you. in real time, in hindsight, the whole nine. Feel free to ask me any questions, any information. I'll gladly go over it. But as a business owner, as an independent thinker, you are to assume your own risk. You are to be accountable of your own actions. None of this is financial advice. I will gladly keep sharing, but you have to understand that you hold the responsibility. Okay? The disclaimers are there. I'm here to remind you. Okay? Next thing is the volatility. I mean, there was no exaggeration there. Those were historic moves that we saw last week. 100-point candles. Okay? It's very clear that you need to size appropriately. Okay? If your normal size is 1 mini, it's time to go down to the micros. Right? If your normal size is a handful of micros, it's time to only use 1 micro. Okay? In my opinion, the market determines your stop, right? So exactly what's shown on the screen. I purposely drew out my entry function because there is one present here, right? This is a bullish unicorn here. We'll talk about this in a minute after we get through the risk conversation because we need to understand the risk. If we're seeing 100-point candles, you cannot be at normal size because the market determines your stop loss, right? And now take a look at this stop loss, 91 points, right? So for all the individuals in here that are going to say, oh, 91 points is a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. We're seeing historic moves right now. And if you were to try to use your normal 10, 15, 25-point stop loss, you're not even going to be able to get in or out of your position because each candle is about a 100-point candle right now. Right? So the market determines your stop. For everybody that's complaining of larger stops, it's because they don't understand proper risk management. This is where your true invalidation is here. Just because you want to have larger size, so you choke up your stop loss, you won't even know if your idea is actually invalidated or not because you would be stopped out before that even happens. Okay, so this is the moment in time where you have to be adaptable. You have to clearly identify the information, right? I mean, it's hard to miss considering we were seeing 5% up, 5% down. We almost hit a limit last week. It touched negative 7% at one point on NQ. Right? How many times have you guys even seen any halts? Have you guys even been around since the last halt? That's the point I'm trying to make here is the volatility. Let's see who was around for the last halt. I'm kind of curious to see how many years the chat has. When was the last halt? When was the last halt? When did that last occur? I'm specifically talking about NQ and ES. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Yep. COVID was the last halt. Halt, however you say that correctly. For anybody that doesn't know what a halt is, within 1 day, right? So the opening of a daily candle, if the market changes 7% within 1 daily candle, that will be a market halt.
Can I add to that one real quick? Because I know that we got a little bit more specific. I knew that it was like Anthony Trudell actually posted something on Twitter. So what
Yep.
happened on the previous day that actually hit near 7% is not necessarily the second that 7% happens. There's actually a 2-minute period from what I believe that I've read. It's either 2 minute or 1 minute from what the market has to basically close underneath that price. And then if the market, let's say, has like a wick at 7% and then closes above within that grace period of time, then they then extend the limits to then, like, let's say 13, which is the next one, and then like that's what happened. So the other day when we were at like near negative 7, I was asking myself the same question because I remembered that COVID. And I guess that the actual COVID time, I didn't necessarily recognize the speed at which the breaker happened, just knew that it happened, right? But this one I actually saw live in front of me, and I was like, wait a second, like, why didn't it trip? And that was kind of like the clarification that was made. So if anyone wasn't familiar with that, the second that the 7% happens, it's not in a second necessarily like they close everything. It actually has to like have like a quote unquote like near settlement or adjustment for the time to like ensure that the limit is actually like there working. So anybody could kind of like fact check that and also look at Anthony's post on Twitter. I'll try to share it in the chat. But it was very insightful because I got even caught off guard on that myself.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's extremely accurate. I agree with everything that you're saying, and I'll continue to add to that. There's 7% limits to the upside as well, but the upside limits are only after market hours. During market hours, as we saw on Wednesday when we went 12% higher, there is no upside limits during market hours. So there's also a nuance there. The upside limits are only during after hours. If the upside limit occurs during the market hours, there is no limit. Just like how Josh was just talking about the downside limit and the amount of time that price has to spend at the limit for it to be triggered. So there is a little bit of nuances there. But nonetheless, what I was kind of trying to get at was the risk, right? It's very clear. I was just pointing out how clear it is that there is more volatility in the market right now. Okay, so due to there being more volatility in the market determines the stops, so you're going to have larger stops, which means position size correctly. Right, 91 points on one contract of NQ. Probably not something everybody's willing to risk. Just go down to the micros. All right, so once everybody's aware of the risk, understands the risk, and assumes their own risk, then we can start to get into the conversation of New York Open and what we're looking for today. Right, risk management's the number one priority at all times, so I'm confirming that everybody understands the risk. Okay, so I'll come back to this, but remember this for now. This is what I'm currently watching. But let's get a proper game plan set up. Okay. Let's take a look. First things first, in my opinion, time is the most important element. That's why we're hopping over here on the economic calendar. We can see here that Tuesday, right, today, no red folders. Now, I know that it's not on the economic calendar, but it's also very clear that you have to be aware of Trump, right? Any of his new tweets. For all the algo lovers, for all the people that truly believe this market's ran on an algorithm, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about Trump sending a tweet, because his tweets about tariffs are quite impactful, right? That 12% move on NQ on Wednesday, pretty impactful. So not trying to stir up a conversation, but I don't, there's thousands of algorithms, there's thousands of ways to manipulate the market. I don't think that there is one sole algorithm. I don't think that price is supposed to be doing something at a certain time. I think the market is heavily manipulated in many different ways. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. The dude says it's a great time to buy. Right after that, he goes and pumps his own tweet with tariff news. Like, come on. You're going to tell me Nancy Pelosi didn't know about that one? Best trader alive, by the way, Nancy Pelosi. Where I was going with that was we don't have any we don't have any news on the economic calendar. Okay, so 9:30 will be an important time, and then we have to keep an eye on Trump, any tariff tweets, anything relating to the tariffs currently right now, because that will act as one of these red folders. You mean best inside trader? Yeah, it's incredible that inside trading is even a thing, considering Nancy Pelosi has done it her entire career and she's not in jail. Crazy how that works. So after understanding the important times of the day, then we can get over to our higher time frames and start to develop a bias and a game plan. In my opinion, I'm looking for higher prices because of this right here. Once the bearish FEG got invalidated, that was price tipping its hand that it wants to reach higher. So I'm currently looking at this here. And then you have some nice equal highs here from the previous week high. Take a look at the previous week real quick. Right, so previous week high being the first target. We know that equal highs are one of our best forms of drawing liquidity. We know that if the fair value gap is not providing fair value, that we must be reaching higher. If price wanted to keep reaching, then I would look for the next swing high there. So target 1, target 2. Okay, so in terms of a bias or a game plan, that's what I'm looking at for today. I'm looking for higher prices. Very simple. I'll say it one more time. The bearish FEG did not provide any type of resistance to price. In fact, we invalidated it here on Wednesday when we closed a candle above it. After invalidating it, we came back down to it, found some support here, and it looks like it's trying to bounce. For that reason, I have a bullish bias, and we know that equal highs are our best form of drawing liquidity, so I'm pointing to the daily equal highs. Okay, so to implement that idea, because yeah, being an analyst is great, but being an executioner is something completely different. Doesn't matter if you can tell where the market is going if you can't execute a position in the market. Okay? Doesn't matter how well you can read the chart, means nothing if you cannot execute risk. Right? So hear me very clearly. It will always come down to the operator. Doesn't matter what system you use. Doesn't matter who you follow. Doesn't matter what kind of education you get. You will always determine your own outcome. And that's why I always talk about being an independent thinker. It doesn't matter what I say up here. It doesn't matter what your favorite influencer says on social media. You will have to click the buttons for yourself. So it does not matter which model you use. All of them could work. Every single one of them could work. If you, the operator, can implement risk management properly. It's always going to come down to you. So take full accountability. Take extreme ownership. And focus on your risk management. Okay, just a little sidetrack there, but now that we have a bias, looking at higher time frame points of interest, to execute that bias, and this is something that I'm looking at here, right? Gaps are essentially the same thing, right? This is the Sunday open gap, okay? Yes, I understand that the candle opened up here, but I'm looking at the current mitigated portion, right? This is what we're currently dealing with, seeing if it provides any support. Gaps are the same thing as FEGs. Both of them are imbalances, right? So now with a bullish bias, looking at a area of potential support, okay? We've swept an hourly swing low inside this area of potential support. See if there's any SMT there. These lows were taken out. 1600 low was the 1600 low taken out. It would have to be. Sorry, I should probably just put both of them on the screen at the same time, but I haven't yet. Let me know if you guys are finding any bullish SMT at this location. That's what I'm currently looking for. 1900. Can't tell if that was swept. That might be. Just barely swept. So there's potential for bullish SMT here. The 1900 candle was swept here on ES. The 1900 candle was not swept on NQ. Okay, so reason being is you saw me create a bias. Now you're looking at me trying to create logic to execute that bias, right? A swing low being swept inside of a potential area of support, looking for bullish SMT. Notice that I'm on the higher time frame, okay? Using higher time frame confluences because I want to be on the same side as higher time frame order flow. Now to wrap it all up, to now become that executioner, right? Because your logic can only take you so far. You still have to operate. You still have to execute, right? So to engage with the marketplace, then I'm looking at my entry function, right? The breaker block plus the FEG. Right. So reason being for me to go through the top-down analysis is so that you can see how to create a bias, how to then look for confirmations to align with that bias, and then using an entry function to execute that bias, right? The entire conversation was to create a game plan to execute it. And that's what it comes down to every single day. Creating a game plan, executing that game plan. So far, only the front runners would have gotten a position, right? So after the entry function was confirmed, right in here, we have yet to revisit it. So only the front runners, right? The people that market order the moment this thing breaks, right? All the people that market ordered here are nicely in profit. All the people that wait for a retest to the breaker block to then get long for the target have not received an entry yet. Very simple. So some are in, some are not. Depending on your rules and how you execute would determine that. Not going to sit here and say, oh, front running is not acceptable, because look at how nicely they're sitting right now, right? That's plus 40 points on a front run. So that's where you become an independent thinker right there. That's where you understand your own characteristics, your own traits, your own personality. Which one fits you better? Waiting for all these confirmations and then placing limit orders at the beginning of the breaker block with a stop loss at the low, right? That would be the individual that waits for the retest. Or are one of you, oh, excuse me, or are you the individual that is capable of executing with less confirmations and you go in there front running the moment this thing breaks, right? The moment this thing turns into a breaker block that has an FVG aligned with it. You make that decision for yourself. Would you rather be market ordering? Would you rather be limit ordering? Because the front runners are coming up to their first target here. This is what I would consider the first target, new highs. So we'll leave this on here. Oh, that was the wrong button. All right, so you've got 2 decisions so far for those front runners. You're already looking at, what is this, 32? You're looking at plus 70 points already, right? So if you want to be done with your position, if you're not willing to hold to 2R, plus 70 points can absolutely make a living. Right, green is green. I'd rather be green than red. So whether you want to trail this thing now, or if you just want to even close it up, call it a day, take your 70 points, that's great. Starting to get the move higher there. This would be the first target, as I mentioned. For the individuals that are waiting for the retest here, if this thing runs to the target first, I would no longer look for a retest, right? Because this is your draw on liquidity. We do have the higher time frame draw on liquidity. Let's put that back on there. But when you the closer the position gets to achieving its objective, the less interested I am in taking the retest. Right, so this thing has already moved almost 2R. Right, so I'm becoming less interested in taking the retest, especially if it takes out the liquidity here. So there's your first target there. Phenomenal job for the front runners. You could call it a day if you want. Once again, take your profit if you front ran this. Amazing executions there. Beautiful job. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anybody else take the W? Throw the executions in chat if you did, or throw a 1 in the chat if you were able to grab some green on the move higher this morning. Phenomenal job, everyone. As I mentioned, I'm no longer interested in taking the retest of this for this exact reason here. I don't care that it did not reach 2R. What I do care about is the fact that it swept these highs. So the people that are already in this, great. The people that did not get a position, I'm no longer willing to take this retest. Nonetheless, we'll see if it still wants to run to the 2R or if any other information presents itself within that time. Damn, closed too early. Definitely change that mindset there, Myth. Okay. Yes, we have to be overly patient with our winners. Our winners need to outweigh our losers. I'm gonna, as we're waiting and watching, I'm gonna make a tiny little diagram right here so that I could talk about a quick conversation. All right, take a look at this tiny little diagram here. Again, just in case this happens while I'm talking, I am no longer willing to take a long here. I will not take the retest of this because it already I don't know why I can't talk this morning. Price already achieved its first objective. For that reason, I'm no longer willing to take the retest for this long position. The front runners were the ones that got paid here. Congratulations. Okay, quick conversation. Small winner, completely acceptable. Small loser, completely acceptable. You want every single one of your losers to be small. You can never, ever, ever have a large loser. Okay, but small losers are going to cancel out your small winners. Okay, so this is break even right here. These two are going to cancel each other out. This is where your risk management really needs to step in line here. This is what you need to focus on. You can never, ever, 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 ever have a large loser. If you could never have a large loser, you'll make progress in this business. Why is that? Because the last thing that's left here is your large winners. This is where you actually make progress, right here. Okay, so your small losers are going to cancel out your small winners. That's a break-even trade there. So when you have that scenario, don't allow it to deter you, right? When you have a small loser, don't have any intrusive thoughts thinking that you had a loser. You have to be able to accept small losers and realize that that's a huge win because you did not have a large loser. The only thing you can't do is have a large loser. If you can get rid of all large losses, you're staring at your progress now. This is what makes the progress right here. Okay, so the reason why I'm pointing this out is small winners completely acceptable, right? So Myth was saying, oh, I should have held on to that longer. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. There's never a reason to analyze something in hindsight. You either did it or you didn't. No matter what you did, those are the results. Learn from it. For the next time, understand that you have to be extremely patient with your winners. The only way that you're going to have large winners is if you hold on to them longer than any other position. Because all of your positions that lose should be small losses, and small losses, when they hit your invalidation, you close the position and you're done. You don't second guess it. You're very impatient with losses while being overly patient with winners. Okay, so what I was trying to get at overall for the entire conversation was that we need to be extremely patient with our winners. Okay, so you'll see it in your data when you collect enough data, how much time you hold a winner compared to how much time you hold a loser. You have to be extremely patient with your winners. You have to be extremely impatient with your losers. This is acceptable scenario. Having a small loss and a small win, those will cancel each other out. You can never have a large loss. And then you'll be staring at progress right here. This is progress. Okay. Once again, risk management is the number one priority at all times. So we need to get more risk management conversations in here. And that's why I drew up that tiny little diagram here. Let's get this off the screen. See if this thing goes to 2R. If it does, that's my information for the day. I'm a huge believer in less is more, quality over quantity, right? I created a game plan. Then I executed that game plan. Now that we're getting a result to that game plan, I would be done for the day. I don't force myself upon the market. Whether you obtained a position or not, okay, you executed your plan. That's what you should be focused on, implementing your plan to the best of your ability. The results to that is a byproduct, right? So what I'm trying to say is, since I was waiting for the retest, we never got a retest. So even though I was bullish, even though I wanted a long position, we got the long position, but it didn't give me an entry. Oh well. Results are a byproduct of the process. Congratulations to the individuals that did catch the W. I came in, focused on the game plan, executed the game plan. Once you get a result to it, that's when you go and work on health. That's when you go to the gym. Okay, so now that I got through some of the conversations I was looking to have today, if you have any questions or comments, we can go through that and I'll get over to the chat. We'll see if this thing runs to R. That'll be my position for the day. So feel free to throw any questions or comments in chat and we'll take some time to go through them. For the record, that was a C2. Let's take a look. Yep, hourly swing low there. Very nice. Hourly swing low. Swept other hourly swing lows and the previous hour low. This candle would be the C2 candle. That is definitely correct. Good old C2 unicorn. Oh, reliable. What a nice trade. Very good job. Luck. Looks like you caught some longs. Very good job. Thank you guys. I almost went short, even though I took the buy earlier. Yep. It was pretty. I know you're saying you're looking for shorts, but the bias was clear in my opinion. I had no issue with this bias. Can't type. So if your message is getting rejected, it's probably because you're not a member of the Discord, if I remember correctly. There you go. You can see the command now. You haven't verified your account yet. That's why you can't complete the message. So in your unicorn model, you can have an opposing candle in the leg that forms the unicorn. Yeah, if you're referring to this 755 candle, this is not the breaker block, but yes, this is a down close candle in the opposing leg to the unicorn. We're looking at swing points here to determine market fluctuations, right? So the market was moving lower, and then it turned here at this swing low, started moving higher, right? Then the market was moving higher for a very short period of time, and then another swing high formed and we started moving lower. Okay, then we took out the liquidity by running below the swing low here. That's called a stop hunt. And then price changed direction again when you get this swing low here, and we displaced through the breaker block. The breaker block's a failed order block, right? This should have acted as a bearish order block, but since it failed, right, price did not get rejected by this level here, right? This should have acted as a bearish order block. Since it failed, price closed above it here at 855, turning these up closed candles into a breaker block. These two up closed candles are your defined breaker block. You can see that the moment that we closed the candle above it, right, we changed the trend, right? If you want to just have simpler terms, right, we were in a downtrend, right? Lower highs, lower lows. We broke the trend and we continued higher. So it's just a simple change of trend. It's how we identify it. Thanks a lot for your analysis. I greatly appreciate the kind words. Thank you for being here, Green Reaper. Hey, good morning, Mike. Looks like the messages went through this time. Good morning, Picasso. How are you doing today? Ash, have you ever thought of implementing pyramid entries to add to your winning positions? If you would like to, that's a great idea. I don't do that, right? Just make sure you're adding to a winning position, not a losing position, right? So for example, this would have been a good one, right? If you market ordered and you front ran this here at 855, got your first contract in here, and then saw that this thing was moving towards your target, so you added another one on the way up, that would be a good add. You just don't want to be adding to losers, is the point to the conversation. This way, adding to winners, your winners can be larger than your losers, and you can focus on having those large wins. Our video is saved in the vault to rewatch later. I am recording this, so this will go up on my YouTube if you did not catch the entire video. Thank you, Ash, for your analysis. Very clear. Thank you as well for being here. I greatly appreciate the chance to live stream and have this conversation with everybody. All the questions and comments are greatly appreciated. It gives us another learning opportunity. Getting to go over this information, answering the questions, looking at the information live in real time. Mainly was talking about the 845 candle. I have been doing this all wrong. 845 candle. Okay, this is just, there's nothing wrong with this down close candle. This is completely fine, right? There's no swing point here. So this is just during the move higher. I understand this is a down close candle, but think of the fluid motion of price, right? Price from this swing low right here had been moving higher the entire time because the next swing point is right here. So this down close candle really doesn't mean anything. It's part of the continuation higher. So here are the movements, right? Swing low, swing high, new low, new high. That's what makes a breaker block. Having a swing low, right here, having a swing low, then having a swing high, then having a new low, then having a new high. That's what a bullish breaker is. So that 845 candle doesn't mean anything. Also, for anybody that was waiting for the 2R, okay, take your profits and be done for the day. Just be done, okay? If you're seriously going to sit there and say, oh, but it hasn't hit 2R yet. Don't be that greedy. Okay? You're talking about a difference of 5 points. Could you imagine giving up 150 points of profits because you wanted 5 more? Think about it. Let's think logically. Let's think in terms of risk management. Be done for the day. For any of the front runners, take your profit and be done. Do not be the individual that says, I must get the next 5 points. I don't even care if it happens, right? Oh, great. Maybe we get it here. Either way, you still need to be closing the position. You need to be done. Do I live stream every single day? I live stream Tuesdays and Thursdays in the premium group, Unicorn University. Then on Wednesdays, I live stream on my YouTube channel. So it's more like 3 days a week. So in hindsight, what would be the entry for the breaker block? Just rewatch this recording. The entire episode was recorded and it will be put on my YouTube channel. The front runners were the only ones that got paid today. You would have had to enter this during the initial break because it never retested the breaker block. Right? So the front runners, the people that instantly enter their position, right? They market order right here at 855. Those are the ones that got paid. Beautiful move today. Bias was correct. Draw and liquidity was correct. You got a 2R position handed to you. If we go and take the overall draw and liquidity, I mean, that would be insane, but the objective 2 today has been completed. So we don't need our bias to be completed to have a winning trade. You should be done for the day. I don't care if price actually goes up here. What we were looking for happened, and you got a result to it. I don't need the bias to be completed for that to happen. Would you prefer teaching trading to kids as future job for them? I've never thought about that question before. That's a very unique question. Would I prefer teaching trading to kids as a future job for them? I mean, I have no clue on that one. I'm a bit stumbled on that question. Very good question. I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to give that one some more thought before getting a response to that one. Why not use the June contract? There's no reason. Once again, I'm a firm believer in less is. I used to use the monthly contracts, but having to keep an eye on contract rollover is just information overload. It's a part of the process that we don't technically have to do because we can just use the continuous contract. So I try to get rid of things that are not a necessity, right? Simplicity brings clarity. So getting rid of small information overload, such as that conversation, I don't need to be using the monthly contract. I don't need watching for the rollovers. I could just use the continuous. Less is more. Simplicity brings clarity. Ash, can you look at the Dixie daily bias? Dixie, here we go. So this thing has been getting crushed by all the news. We've taken out some major liquidity here. Take a look at this. Multiple previous month lows here. Look at all these lows that it took out. Okay. Also, if you're a range trader, right, this looks like a very clear range considering how long we've been in this range since 2023. Right, so This could be another range deviation, just like this was here. Range deviation. Is this another range deviation here? The way that I'll determine whether this is a range deviation or not is looking at this right here. Right, I'm always using swing highs, swing lows, and FVGs on the daily chart to determine my bias. Right, so since we just swept out a previous month low, will we go external to internal? Right, this move here, external to internal. If we even do that, then I would analyze this internal location. Right, do we get this, a rejection, and we just continue to keep heading lower? Right, this is how I would answer that question, whether it's a range deviation or not. Or do we get this, invalidate it, turn it into support to head higher? Oh, the arrow's heading the wrong way. Right, which one do we get? That is the if-then statement that I would be using for Dixie right now. Wondering if this is a range deviation. If it's a range deviation, I would be looking at this daily FVG to see if it provides resistance, right? This would be resistance, or if it gets invalidated and gets turned into support. It's an if-then statement for myself. How much is Unicorn U? It's a monthly subscription. I could send the link after this. Ash University, yeah. Ash Capital is the public Discord. Dave also uses continuous XF for a living. Yeah, it's probably the same reason. Ash, what was your higher time frame here? London low or an hourly swing low got swept here? Right, you have multiple swing lows right here for a bullish bias. The higher time frame points of interest that we use are swing lows, are bullish FEGs. Look at this hourly swing low getting swept. At the same time that this hourly swing low got swept, we had this bullish SMT here too. ES swept the 1900 candle. NQ did not sweep the 1900 candle. So here's your entire logic and reasoning for the position. Bullish bias, hourly swing low as higher time frame point of interest, hourly bullish SMT as confirmations to the idea of this 5-minute bullish unicorn. It's the entire logic behind the position. You teach it in such a way that you're an excellent communicator. I could see you being able to teach youth and change their futures. Not everyone has that gift. You also have patience. I have seen it. That was very generous, Lisa. That really does mean a lot to me because I truthfully spend every single week doing this. For everybody that has been participating with me, they can see that I quite literally wake up and the moment I peel my eyes open, I'm trying to get to the Discord. So also need to say thanks to my wife for that because, I mean, the amount of time that I spend on here, I could see being an issue for other relations, but I quite literally give this my all. So thank you very much for saying that. I spend all of my days doing this. That is really greatly appreciated. Thank you for that, Lisa. Other countries are supposedly selling dollars due to Trump, so bearish on Dixie. I mean, it has clearly gone lower, but at the location that it's at now, and this is not, I wouldn't right? You buy low, sell high. So now that we've been dumping for quite some time, right? All the countries have been selling it. Yes, I agree with that. We've gone much lower on Dixie, but buy fear, sell greed. Buy low, sell high. Okay, now that we're below the lows, I'm no longer interested in selling, and I would be using the if-then statement that I just mentioned. Do you look for higher time frame SMT and SMT on your entry time frame? I would rather be using higher time frame SMT. That's why I pointed out the hourly SMT here. Okay, in my opinion, you have to be on the same side as higher time frame order flow. Okay, so yes, obviously lower time frame SMT would help the idea as well, but I'd rather base my decision making off of the higher time frame, is what I'm trying to say here. Right? The idea came from being bullish on the daily, then I confirm that idea with confirmations from the hourly chart. So notice how I'm getting on the same side as higher time frame order flow, and that the only time I went down to the lower time frame was to look for an entry function. Logic needs to be created from the higher time frame. Right? I wasn't pointing to a 5-minute gap. I was pointing to the weekly opening gap, right? This is a significant gap here, right? This is not just some 1-minute gap. This is not some 5-minute gap. This is the weekly opening gap. And the idea was, is this going to provide support for us? It did. And the thing that gave away the move was the SMT and the hourly swing low getting swept. And when we swept that hourly swing low, we didn't close below it. We moved back inside the range, right? So what I'm trying to say here is, right, look at this candle here. We wicked the low, and after wicking the low, we closed back inside the range, right? The range being the swing low. This is the extreme of the range. Do you journal missed trades? Uh, that's actually hilarious because the amount of toxicity and negativity I've gotten for journaling trades that I don't take is quite incredible. I don't know how people learn, but you have to watch something happen and journal it to learn from it. So, for example, I normally sleep from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So when you see me post a London open trade, you'll never see any execution labels on it because I did not execute it. I just document it. It's like eye training, right? I'm looking for my model, and when it appears, I document it. You'd be quite surprised on how much toxicity I got for that. Yeah, here we go. Perfect timing, Interstellar. It's because you are a hindsight trader. Anyone can do that. Yeah, I guess all the profits I've made is completely hindsight. Yep. Oh, that's the problem with the Twitter space. Yeah, I mean, that's quite literally the response that I normally get. So that's Twitter for you. If you don't want to deal with toxicity or negativity, don't go on Twitter. But I'm here to learn, so I will be documenting regardless. It's very simple. If you see the execution labels on the screen, I executed the trade. If you do not see execution labels on the screen, I did not execute the trade. Anybody's opinion on that is completely up to them. They're free to have their own opinions, but I'm going to keep learning and working each week. What's the name of your indicator? I don't have an indicator. Hint, hint. Maybe I should talk to Josh about that. We shall see. I don't have one yet, though. How many trades did you have in the last month? I'm only averaging 1 trade a week right now. So I'm not one of those guys that takes 20 trades in a day. I'm not one of the guys that trades every single day. In my opinion, I've actually said it multiple times already this stream. Less is more, quality over quantity. If I wanted a full-time job, then I would have just, stuck to a 9 to 5, and that way I can stare at the screen all day long, every single day. In my opinion, a lot of people come to day trading to free up some time. Freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of income. Okay, so that's the reason why I only take 1 or 2 trades a week, because I want to be going to the gym when lunchtime hits. I want to be taking care of my real estate. I want to work on other businesses. I don't want to spend my entire day, every single day, staring at a screen. How do you know that you're doing enough? You should be outworking yesterday's self. If you're doing 1% more than you did yesterday, that's how you know you're doing enough. Because comparison is the thief of joy. Do not compare to anybody else. Only compare to your prior self. Okay? If you did 1% more than you did yesterday, then you're doing enough. That's what progress is. And you can measure that on any kind of scale you want, whether that's you're documenting, right? Did you journal more today than you did yesterday? If you want to do that with back testing, did you back test more trades than you back tested yesterday? If you want to do that with the gym, did you get an extra rep in today compared to yesterday? Okay, health and family are the number one priority. So everything's not measured on trading. Everything's not measured on finances. Right? Did you take a position today that allowed you to have more time with your family today? This position probably would, because this thing ran right to the target within the first 15 minutes of the open. So now you can be done. How much time did you spend when learning? I learn every single day, so the clock is still ticking on that one. There is never going to be an end to the learning. And I sincerely mean that. Like, you have to be willing to learn for the rest of time. If
I
you're
want to add on one
closed-minded,
point here, if I can.
go ahead.
Yeah. You mentioned this about taking more, reps than like let's say like the quote unquote like real stuff. And I think that's just like honestly so important that people don't necessarily even talk about or realize. But it's like think about any professional sports, any professional athletes, any type of actual profession. Think about the ratio of the time spent in either learning or actual experience to the end result of where you're put into that pressure situation. Like if you don't train yourself mentally to be able to be in those conditions, then when you're in those conditions, it's going to by default be harder. So having those reps in allow you to be more confident during the real time executions. So it's the easiest way for me to look at it is like in a basketball game. Like think about how many basketball players literally take so many shots, right? And it's the same thing also for baseball. Think about how many times they're at the batting cages, but it's like when they actually get past the ball or hit or able to hit the ball, like it's not that many times, but they got to be on their stuff, right? So when you're looking at it, you got to take it on a similar path of that professionalism to say, hey, listen, like if this is something I'm taking extremely seriously, then you definitely know that you need to be putting in more reps in the actual end result. Like you can't match, 1 to 1 and say, oh, I'm going to take 100 shots during practice and think you're going to take 100 shots on a basketball game on the live court. You're not going to get past the ball 100 times. Like it's very similar, analogy to that. So I just want someone to be able to kind of either see that as a resonate with that, or even invite and ask some questions, because that practice aspect of this and refining your own craft. It's just, again, it's not really talked about as much. And, those are the things that make people a better analyst, trader, and someone that's more familiar with executing with confidence.
I mean, that was extremely accurate. I mean, the amount of times Steph Curry has practiced shooting the ball versus the amount of times he's shot a ball during the game is huge difference in ratio there. So you have to practice how you play. If you don't show up to your practice the same way as you play, then the game time, you're still going to be flustered. So your preparation needs to be even better than your execution. Keep that in mind. Is the unicorn model based on the breaker block being inside the imbalance? Yeah, so the unicorn model literally means a breaker block, which a breaker block is a failed order block, right? This would have been a bearish order block right here if price got rejected by it, but since price broke it and continued higher, this became a breaker block. The fact that an FVG is aligned with the breaker block is what makes it a unicorn. So just in very simple terms, a breaker block plus an FVG is what a unicorn model is. And notice how it's not fully aligned with it. It just needs to be touching, right? It doesn't have to be 100% aligned. It's either touching the breaker block or it's not. That's it. So since this is touching the breaker block, this is a unicorn model. That's why I pointed it out here this morning. Is this live recorded? Yeah, this has been recorded, and I will place this on my YouTube after this. For the unicorn you pointed out, what is the early entry? I had mentioned multiple times right here, 855. Okay, there are people that will market order the moment this turns into a breaker block, right? So price went above the breaker block. See, these two candles are the breaker block. The first time price went above it, 855, there are people that will market order right now, right here at 855. That would be considered front running the unicorn model, right? Front running means getting in early instead of waiting for the retest, right? So all the people that waited for this didn't get an entry because it never retested the unicorn model. The front runners were the only ones that got an entry this morning. So that goes to show you that there's no right or wrong, right? You can market order if you want. You can wait for the retest if you want. You should look into your own personality or your own traits, your own psychology to understand what you resonate with more.
Can I add to this too? And I want to kind of ask some questions to you as well, Ash. It's like, what are the instances? Are there any similarities or characteristics that you can determine from the point of seeing a breaker block front ran, and that materializing, let's say, more often than another signature? And then can you talk about again some of that, maybe for anyone that has that question as well?
So, in my opinion, I choose the way that I'm going to execute before I execute. There aren't any signatures that will change the way I execute. I like to create a game plan and then adhere to that game plan. So, I'm the type of individual, my mentality fits with waiting for the retest because I like to see all the confirmations to the entry function first. I'm also patient enough to not care if this thing runs without me, like it did today. So, in my opinion, I wait for the retest no matter what signatures are on the screen. But still, to answer the question, the times that get front ran are normally when there's a breakaway gap, right? So people consider an FEG that never gets retested as a breakaway gap. And you can see that here. Seeing that there was a breakaway gap as the FEG that aligned with the breaker block, it makes sense that the front runners got paid on this one. So this would be one of those signatures that you're referring to in terms of front running versus waiting for the retest when there's a breakaway gap.
So I want to talk about a signature that I personally have been looking at as it relates to a breaker block as well, and what I personally believe is a good indication. But like, if you see any basically like stacked order flow, or let's say they call it like a propulsion block that's within the breaker, then basically that'll be like that last line of defense, in my opinion, for the breaker. And then let's say that breaker block fails. The only, let's say, like reclaim entry would be if that does gets rated with an SMT, and then that would initiate honestly the buy side of the curve, and then coming back above the breaker would have to produce an imbalance, and then that's something that I've personally been studying, and I don't know if anybody else has been looking at something similar to that. If you have any questions on based off what I said, I'm happy to expand on that though.
Very good. Yeah, so I do know other people also use the inversion of this as well. Not something that I do, but Brian Stonks does this a lot. He likes to execute the ones that have balanced price ranges or inversions, whatever you want to call it. Seeing that there was a bearish FEG here, right? Bearish FEG. We inverse that right here, right? So whether you want to call that an inversion, it is also a balanced price range because you get the bullish FEG here that overlaps with it. So this is something that Brian Stonks likes to do. He likes to wait for breaker blocks that have a balanced price range. So that would also be another signature as well. Can we take a bearish unicorn if it occurs? Personally, I'm not interested. Right? Yes, this could potentially be turning into a bearish unicorn. You would still have to wait for the FVG and candle closure below it. So this is not a bearish unicorn. It's currently being created, and we don't know if we will get the confirmation or not. So you just have to sit and wait to see if the confirmations ever occur. But either way, even if the confirmations do occur, I'm not interested in taking a bearish unicorn because I don't like to counter trade my bias. Right. So my bias, going back to the very original conversation, is this being the drawn liquidity here, the daily equal highs. So even if the bearish unicorn appears, I will not execute it because it does not align with my current bias. As soon as there's a closure above the BB open, yeah, that's what people front run, right? Right here, 855 candle would be the front run. That was the first time it closed above the breaker, right here, 855. The front runners are market ordering right here. Very good job, Mr. Gardner. Yep, I front run by letting a 1 minute close above the 5 minute breaker, but it doesn't always play out, so be careful. Yep, no matter what, risk management will always be the number one. But that is another great example of front running. Looks like you're getting the displacement through the breaker. Right, this would be the bearish breaker right here. Swing high, swing low, new high, new low. Clear and decisive displacement, right? It's clearly displacing through the breaker. We'll see if it closes lower. Once again, it still doesn't matter. I will not be touching that because of my bias. But yes, it has potential to being a unicorn model. We'll see. Looks like this thing might just run all the way without. All right, so this would be... Okay, so you get the displacement. This is a breaker now. And then if they leave this FVG aligned with it, it will be a unicorn. But what I was about to say is this thing's going to head to the target before anybody even gets a confirmed model. Right, we're already at 2R. So another reason why I have no interest in touching this. Because it went to the target before ever confirming the model. Mentioned earlier, when a position completes its objective, that's when I'm no longer willing to use it. Right, and still, even if this thing gives an entry, this thing already ran 1.77, so 1.8. So I don't care. Even if it still gives an entry, I still wouldn't use it. It already completed its objective. It's against my bias. I have no interest in this. Today's unicorn has had so much speed, can't catch. This is actually a Trump characteristic. Throw a 1 in chat if you have noticed this. Ever since Trump has gotten into the office, there has been more times than... Yeah, see, everybody already knows what I'm about to say. I didn't even finish the statement. Ever since Trump has gotten in the office, they just take off without providing the retest, is where I was going with that. Same thing happened this morning. The Trump volatility has clearly played an impact, without a doubt. They keep creating unicorns, but without giving a retest, they'll just run it higher. And everybody already knew that I was going to say that. So no worries though, right? That doesn't mean you have to go in changing something. You don't have to go look for the newest, shiniest object. That's okay. Price can and will do whatever. When it fits our logic, when it fits our risk management, when it fits our model, that's the time that I would want to risk. When it does not fit that, then I have no problem sitting on the sidelines. Ron, hello, Ron. OG Unicorn entry scout for 50 points. Well, you took the long from here. Is that what you're saying, Mike? Plus 50 points is quite nice. So once again, you might as well just take your profit and call it a day. Especially considering the close to minimal drawdown. Love your recent collabs, different questions, angles, even more insides. Thanks for the kind words, Mike. I greatly appreciate that. I do plan on doing more collabs. I don't know if everybody saw yesterday's face reveal, but My Funded Future had me. That was a great conversation. That is also recorded and shown on YouTube, so check that out there. I am going to begin to wrap this up, so if there's any last questions, I'll take like 1 or 2 more questions, but my actions are going to align with my words. I created a game plan, saw my entry function, it provided a result. Now that that has been completed, I'm going to head over to the gym. So I'll give it a few more moments for any last questions, and then we'll begin to wrap it up.
Again, if you don't have any questions, please drop some love in the chat. Ash is out here spending some nice time with you guys, walking through the process, staying disciplined, giving you guys a clear direction on what he is thinking in his own journey and his own opinions. And hopefully, you guys have been able to have some sort of takeaway from this. And for everyone that isn't aware, anyone that's in the escape and gives or shares their notes for the live stream will be rewarded with XP. And for XP, you get rewarded to unlock XP tools and also give Pro Plus gifts to other non 2 degrees subscribers. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, check out 2 Degrees XP. It's awesome. And if you guys have any other questions, throw it in the chat. Also, you can tag him in the general chat. Just be mindful that, again, Ash is, quite busy. So if he doesn't respond to you immediately, just please be cautious of, just don't double ping him and stuff. He will get to it when he can. Okay. So we appreciate everyone. There's a couple of last questions right here. I think Karan might be the last one, and I can just kind of talk it out loud. It says, sir, main swing level is not broken yet, so we can still consider as a bull market. So I don't necessarily know the context of that question. And if you have any other clarity, then maybe we can try to answer this as the last question. But Karan, if you can try to rephrase your question, I'd be happy to look to answer it because I personally don't understand what you were trying to say here. But we will be happy to answer if you want to rephrase.
So my only opinion on that question is there's many price fluctuations throughout the day. So in terms of bull market or bear market, you could capture either side of the market within the day, right? So, and you're seeing it now, right? We had a beautiful move in the morning that ran higher. And now it looks like the lunchtime move is getting a retrace back to the opening price. So in terms of bull market or bear market, the question does definitely need to be clarified a little bit more, because if you're talking about a long-term position, yes, I'm definitely bullish. I'm definitely looking for higher prices. If you're talking about an intraday position, there's going to be many fluctuations up and down within intraday action. So, you can capture either side of the market. It just kind of depends on what you're trying to execute. Intraday. Yep. So intraday, we ran above the highs. So for me, swing highs, swing lows, and FEGs are the locations that I look at, right? It makes sense that we saw a rejection because price moved from a swing low to a swing high. After taking out the swing high, you then got a retrace back into the range, right? So you can see the extremes of the range here, right? So above old highs, I look for short positions. Below old lows, I look for long positions. So if you want to frame ideas intraday around that, that would make sense. So you mean yesterday's daily low can be tried? I'm not looking to predict price. I simply efficiently react to price, right? So when price got above the swing high, we started looking for a bearish unicorn. When price got below the swing low, we looked for a bullish unicorn, right? So since price is currently inside the middle of the range, this is not somewhere I would be looking for any entries. I would simply just be waiting, see if it goes to a range extreme. If it goes to the extreme of the range, then I would look to see if an entry function occurs. There's no reason to predict. It's much better to efficiently react. Be objective to price instead of trying to influence it. Right? I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it will move to a new low on the day, or it will move to a new high in the day. There's no reason to predict. I'd rather just efficiently react and manage my risk. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up with that one. I do want to say I greatly appreciate Josh and the 2 Degrees team. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to stream. I really also appreciate everybody that participated this morning. It truly provides so much more value. Getting to do this with everyone, every single time a question is brought up, every single time any information is brought up, it gives everybody another learning opportunity. If we were to be doing this on our own, we'd be subjective to our own experiences instead of getting all of that information from everybody else that asked questions. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that was here. I greatly appreciate every single one of you. It was a phenomenal morning. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all the information. And thank you for Josh for having me. I hope everybody has a great day.
We appreciate you a lot. Thank you everyone for being here, and thank you, Ash. Welcome any time that you're willing to stream over here. So we appreciate you. Everyone else, have a wonderful rest of your day, and please be safe. And we will see you soon. Okay. All right.
Have a good day,
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody. Bye bye.